Have you ever wondered why everything that's supposed to work out never really does? Why you've followed the rules, done what they said, walked the path they praised, and still ended up feeling lost, drained, or invisible? If you've been told that you're lazy, ungrateful, or inconsistent, and yet something deep in your spirit knows that's not true, keep listening. Because this message is not for the masses. This isn't for the ones who blend in, who fit perfectly into systems, who chase job titles and promotions like their lives depend on it. No, this message is for the outliers, the misfits, the quiet disruptors, the chosen ones, especially those marked with the letter M or the crescent moon, who have felt different since the beginning. If your soul is tired not from work but from working in the wrong direction, if every job you try seems to drain your spirit instead of ignite it, if you've started to feel like maybe you weren't made for this system, it's because you weren't. And no, that's not a flaw. That's the first sign of your divine awakening. You didn't find this video by coincidence. This is not an algorithm glitch. This is a divine interruption, meant to reach you exactly at the moment you were ready to remember the truth. You were never called to survive like everyone else. You were chosen to awaken the world. What you've been calling confusion may actually be clarity trying to reach you. What felt like rejection may have been redirection from God, and what the world labeled laziness could very well be spiritual resistance, heaven pulling you back from a life that would have suffocated your gift. So let me ask you this. Have you ever sat with the thought, maybe I'm not supposed to get another job? Not because you're irresponsible, but because everything inside you is resisting it? Maybe you've started to hear that still, inner voice telling you, there's something else you're meant to do. Maybe you don't even know what that something is yet, but you know it's not what they told you to settle for. That's not your imagination. That's not a phase. That's not a crisis. That is your calling. Activating. And if this resonates with you, if you feel a stirring in your chest, a warmth in your heart, or even tears welling up, then comment 444 below. Not for me, but for you. As a symbol, a confirmation that you hear this and you recognize it. And more than that, subscribe now to The Secret Path and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next. This isn't about hype. This is about alignment. This is your moment to stop surviving and start listening. Because in this video, I'm going to walk with you. We're going to talk about why jobs were never meant for chosen ones like you, why your resistance is holy, and how to finally step into the life God prepared for you long before you were born. This is not motivation. This is a map back to your assignment. And the journey begins now. You've probably asked yourself this at some point. Why does nothing ever seem to click for me like it does for others? You tried. You followed the path. You did what was expected. You said yes to the jobs, the routines, the daily grind, and still, it all felt wrong. Like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small or speaking a language that never really belonged to you. And so maybe you started to wonder, what's wrong with me? Let me answer that right now. Nothing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not lazy, you are being set apart. And that feeling of not fitting in, it's not failure. It's proof. Proof that you were never supposed to fit into a system that wasn't built with your spirit in mind. Chosen ones don't follow the same blueprint as the world. Why? Because their assignment comes from a higher place. Their directions are divine. Think about it. Have you noticed that every time you try to walk the so-called normal path, something in your life breaks down? The job falls through. The energy dies. The doors shut. No matter how qualified you are, no matter how hard you push, it just doesn't hold. That's not a curse. That's not sabotage. That's heaven stepping in and saying, not here, not this. Because what looks like a closed door from the outside is often divine protection on the inside. You weren't created to be a worker in the world's machine. You were created to be a builder of something greater, a messenger, a healer, a guide. You weren't sent here to survive systems. You were sent here to disrupt them with light. So every rejection you faced, every false start, every moment where you sat in confusion while everyone else seemed to move forward, was God whispering, Not that path. I have something else for you. You may not see it yet. You may not know exactly what it looks like, but something in you already knows. You're meant for more than a paycheck, more than a position, more than being told what to do by people who don't even recognize your value, because you carry something the world can't quantify. A sacred assignment, a gift that doesn't fit on a resume, a light that makes darkness uncomfortable. And that's why it hasn't worked. That's why no matter how much you try to shrink yourself to fit, your soul pushes back. Because your soul remembers something your mind is only just starting to recall. You weren't born to blend in. You were chosen to be set apart. And yes, it feels lonely sometimes. Yes, it can feel confusing. But that's only because most people were never called to walk the path you've been assigned. They can't understand what they've never carried, so stop measuring your life by what hasn't worked out. Start seeing those disruptions as instructions. God didn't remove those jobs to punish you. He removed them to protect your purpose. And now He's calling you to wake up, to listen, to realign. You don't need to force your way into rooms that reject your light. You don't need to strive for titles that silence your gift. You were chosen for something bigger, something deeper, and that something won't come from chasing what the world calls success. It will come the moment you say yes to what your spirit has been whispering all along. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt. There's a quiet force inside you that many have misunderstood, even you. It rises up when you're about to accept what others would call a good opportunity. It tightens in your chest when you try to convince yourself to be realistic or responsible. It floods your body with fatigue the moment you prepare to walk into a job you were never meant to take. And because this resistance doesn't come with instructions or a clear explanation, you've been taught to label it as weakness. You've internalized the idea that you're lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined, when the truth is far more sacred. That resistance is your spirit's way of protecting you from misalignment. Chosen ones were never created to operate in environments that mute their essence. You were not designed to wake up every day and pour your life into systems that drain your light, restrict your purpose, and bury your gift beneath layers of obligation. Every time you've tried to walk the path others called normal, a part of your soul began to shut down, not because you're fragile, but because you're too spiritually aware to ignore what doesn't resonate. That internal friction, the tiredness that hits you before the task even begins, the mental fog that clouds your clarity the moment you accept something that's out of alignment, it's not failure, it's revelation. It's heaven whispering, not this, not here, not you. You were not created to survive through effort alone. You were created to flow with divine purpose. And when you try to ignore that, when you try to silence that sacred resistance and push through like the world taught you, your body begins to speak louder. Your energy dips. Your enthusiasm dies. Your vision blurs. Because your soul knows when you're off course, and it will fight to bring you back. The world calls it inconsistency. But in the spirit, it's discernment. It's your divine blueprint, rejecting the noise of human expectations and choosing the higher path, one led not by logic but by obedience. And yes, it's hard to explain this to people. It's painful when loved ones think you've given up, when coworkers say you lack drive, when even you wonder if maybe you're just not strong enough. But chosen ones aren't here to chase external validation. You're here to carry a vibration that disrupts comfort zones, patterns, and traditions. Your refusal to conform isn't rebellion, it's remembrance. Deep down, you know you weren't born to fill positions. You were born to fulfill purpose. And no job title, no matter how impressive, can substitute. So the next time you feel that resistance rise up in you, pause. Honor it. Don't shame it. Don't force yourself to move when your spirit is saying, wait. Don't confuse the world's pace with God's direction. That inner tension might not make sense to others, but it doesn't have to. It's not for them. It's for you. You're being led differently, trained differently, shaped for something far greater than what most people can understand. What looks like hesitation from the outside is actually preparation on the inside. You're not lost. You're not failing. You're being pulled back so you don't waste your energy on something that will never feed your soul. And that resistance, that sacred, invisible, exhausting resistance, that is not weakness, that is your calling. Since you were a child, something inside you questioned the rhythm of this world. While others felt excitement about titles, promotions, and stable careers, your spirit longed for meaning. While people around you celebrated productivity and performance, you searched for truth, for purpose, for a kind of work that didn't just pay the bills but awakened the soul. And even when you tried to silence that longing, when you convinced yourself to follow the secure path to fit into the expectations that were handed to you, it never truly worked. Something always broke. Something always felt off. Not because you lacked skill or discipline, but because you were never meant to thrive in roles that reduce your light to a job description. Ordinary jobs were created to manage labor, organize systems, and maintain order, but you weren't sent here to be managed. You were sent here to move atmospheres. You carry within you a frequency that can shift entire environments. That frequency cannot survive under fluorescent lights, micromanagement, or shallow routines that ignore the deep waters of your spirit. You were made to awaken others simply by being who you are. You were designed to guide, to lead, to heal, to shake things up. And no matter how hard you've tried to make peace with the normal life, your soul has refused to settle. That's not failure, that's divine protection. There is a reason your heart starts to suffocate when you imagine working in a place that doesn't reflect who you truly are. There's a reason you feel anxiety instead of peace when you try to force yourself into something that looks good on paper but feels lifeless in your bones. That's not stubbornness, that's wisdom. It's your soul saying, I was not created for this. You weren't placed here to make someone else's dream profitable while your own calling goes ignored. You weren't born to be a cog in a machine. You were born to carry presence into places that forgot how to breathe. And yes, you may have worked regular jobs before. Maybe you still are. There's no shame in that. But the ache you feel, the knowing that this is not your final stop, is sacred. It's the signal that your assignment is bigger than what this world can offer you. You may not have all the answers right now. You may not see the full picture. But you do have the call, you do have the confirmation, and you do have the power to begin walking in the direction of what was written for you before you were even born. So take a deep breath and ask yourself, honestly and with courage, do I truly believe I was born just to work, pay bills, and die? Or do I feel in the quiet places of my soul that I was born to build something that outlives me? If your spirit is nodding right now, if you feel that inner yes, then comment 4 below. That number is not just a symbol, it's your agreement, your sign that you know ordinary work could never contain what you carry. It's time to stop shrinking to fit what's beneath you and start rising into what you were made for. There's something deeply isolating about walking a path that others can't see. You try to explain it, to translate it into words that make sense, but no matter how much you share, people just don't understand. You've been called unmotivated, unstable, even irresponsible by those who think life should follow a linear formula. They measure success by income, by titles, by visible results. And because you've stepped away from that formula, because your life doesn't look like theirs, they assume you're lost. But the truth is, you're not lost. You're being led, just not by them. From the outside, your steps may seem uncertain. You may look like you're wandering. But what they cannot see is that every pause, every shift, every closed door has been part of a divine alignment. The world doesn't recognize your kind of movement because it's not loud. It's not based on performance. It's based on obedience. And obedience rarely earns applause. It rarely looks impressive at first glance. But it is the most powerful. Force a chosen one can walk in, because it means you're listening to something higher than human approval. You've likely had seasons where everything seemed silent. No big breakthroughs, no external validation, just you, your gift, and the voice of God nudging you forward in ways that didn't always make sense. And in those moments, you may have questioned yourself. You may have wondered if you missed it, if you were fooling yourself, if maybe they were right about you. But let me speak directly to that inner doubt. Heaven never forgot you. heaven never doubted you. Even when the world dismissed you, heaven nodded in full approval, because it knew the cost of your obedience. When the world asks for results, God looks at alignment. When the world demands speed, heaven honors depth. You weren't designed to produce like a machine. You were created to birth something sacred, and sacred things take time. Sacred things are misunderstood. Sacred things often look like nothing, until suddenly, they become everything. So if you've ever felt out of place, if you've ever walked away from an opportunity everyone else would have killed for, if you've ever chosen peace over prestige, purpose over popularity, silence over spectacle, know this: that wasn't weakness. That was worship. That was you aligning with a rhythm this world can't hear. And while the world may never understand the beauty of that decision, heaven already has. You don't need their permission to continue. You don't need their validation to begin. You've already been approved in the courts of the divine. The assignment placed on your life wasn't voted on by society. It was breathed into you by God Himself. And no opinion, no rejection, no label can cancel what's been sealed by His authority. So walk boldly. Let them question you. Let them misunderstand. Their confusion is not your concern. Your only responsibility is to stay in alignment. Because while they chase applause, you're carrying purpose, and that damn will always be enough. In a world that idolizes speed, performance, and results, the idea of slowing down to listen feels like failure. If you're not hustling, they say you're lazy. If you're not producing, they assume you've given up. If you're not climbing the ladder, they think you're falling behind. But heaven doesn't move by those metrics. Heaven doesn't rush. Heaven doesn't perform. And most of all, heaven doesn't require you to burn out to be worthy. The world may reward productivity, but heaven responds to obedience. And here lies the sacred tension you've been living in. While others are chasing success by human standards, you've been called to pause, to wait, to build in silence, to move without fanfare. And yet, it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? Something inside you still wants to look productive, to have the answers, to be able to show something tangible for all your time and effort. But deep down, your spirit knows. You are not in this season to perform. You are here to align. Because spiritual alignment doesn't always produce instant results. Sometimes it looks like sitting still when every voice says run. Sometimes it looks like writing words no one reads yet. Creating work that no one sees. Building something from the inside out before it ever reaches the outside. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it can feel invisible. But what the world calls inactivity, heaven calls incubation. And what the world calls risky, heaven calls obedience. You see, there are moments in a chosen one's journey when everything appears unproductive, on the surface. But beneath that silence, something powerful is forming. Strength, clarity, revelation, foundation. You're not wasting time, you're being prepared. Because when you walk in obedience, even when it doesn't make sense, you're activating a kind of momentum that's invisible to the eye, but unstoppable in the spirit. That's why some doors haven't opened yet. That's why certain jobs didn't call you back. That's why plans you thought were solid suddenly fell apart. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God wasn't withholding from you. He was protecting you from building something outside of your divine blueprint. Because what you construct in disobedience, you'll have to maintain in exhaustion. But what you build in obedience, heaven sustains. So the next time you're tempted to measure your worth by how busy you look, or how much money you're making, or how many people are applauding you, pause and ask, am I moving because I'm aligned, or because I'm afraid to look still? Remember this: activity isn't the same as authority. Movement isn't the same as momentum. And pleasing people is not the same as walking with God. Chosen one, you weren't sent here to compete in their race. You were sent to create a path that redefines what success even means. Your life is not supposed to look like everyone else's. Your progress will not be measured by output. It will be measured by surrender. And your provision will not follow your grind. It will follow your yes. There's a kind of restlessness that no vacation can fix. a heaviness that no amount of sleep can shake. You wake up tired not because your body is overworked, but because your spirit is underused. There's an ache that lingers in the silence, in the spaces between distractions, in those quiet moments when your soul whispers what your mind keeps trying to forget. You were made for more. And the longer you ignore that whisper, the louder the weight becomes. Most people call it anxiety. Some call it burnout. Others label it depression. But for many chosen ones, what you're actually experiencing is a gift trapped inside you begging to be released. It's not emotional imbalance, it's spiritual imbalance. Your purpose was never meant to sit in the corner of your life like a forgotten dream. It was meant to lead you, to speak through you, to move through you. And when you bury that gift beneath routines, expectations, or fear, the result is not peace, it's internal conflict. Because your calling was never passive. It's alive. It breathes. It speaks. And when ignored, it resists. It stirs. It disrupts your comfort. That anxiety you feel when doing work that drains you isn't weakness, it's divine friction. It's your soul trying to wake you up, trying to tell you, this is not where your light belongs. The meetings you dread, the tasks you avoid, the roles you can't settle into, they're not just part of life, they're signs. Signs that your spirit is trying to pull you out of what is familiar, but false, and into what is sacred but unknown. And maybe that's what scares you. The unknown, the risk. The thought of walking away from what's safe even if it's soul-numbing. But what you don't realize is that the longer you delay the activation of your gift, the more intense that restlessness becomes. Because your gift was never optional. It was never a nice extra. It was the blueprint of your assignment. You weren't just given a talent. You were entrusted with a divine tool to unlock transformation. And when you ignore it, it doesn't disappear. It becomes pressure. You've probably felt it. That unexplained frustration, that deep sense of being out of sync, that loss of passion, even for things you used to enjoy. These are not random symptoms. They are spiritual symptoms. The gift inside you is not asleep, it's suffocating, and it's waiting for your permission to breathe again. Chosen one, your peace is not somewhere out there. It's buried inside the very thing you keep pushing aside. Your voice, your vision, your healing touch, your insight, your creativity, your story. The moment you stop running from it and start moving with it, everything begins to shift. Not because life becomes easier, but because it finally becomes aligned. You don't need a new routine. You need restoration. You don't need more motivation. You need obedience. And you don't need to figure out every step before starting. You just need to say yes. Because anxiety fades in the presence of activation. Peace comes when purpose takes the lead. And fulfillment flows not from what you earn, but from what you release. Chosen one. If you've come this far, if your spirit stayed with this message until the very end, it's because this wasn't just another video. This was a divine reminder. A sacred confirmation that what you've been sensing in silence is real. That the world's path was never your path. That the job you couldn't force yourself to love, the life you couldn't make yourself settle into, the resistance that made you question your worth, all of it had purpose. All of it was preparing you for this moment. You are not lazy. You are not confused. You are not broken. You are being refined, redirected, reawakened. Every time you felt like something inside you was screaming for more meaning, more depth, more purpose, that wasn't restlessness. That was remembrance. A part of your soul remembering that you were chosen not to fit in, but to build what hasn't been built, to speak what hasn't been said, to walk in ways others are afraid to even imagine. You are not here to climb the world's ladder. You are here to activate heaven's blueprint. The delays you faced were not punishments, they were protection. The rejection was not failure, it was redirection. The tension, the fatigue, the frustration, it wasn't a sign that you were behind. It was a sign that you've outgrown the systems designed to keep you small. And now, you stand at a threshold. A holy invitation is being extended to you, not to hustle harder, but to listen deeper, not to apply for more roles, but to accept the role you were born for, not to chase approval, but to trust the assignment that was sealed inside your soul, long before this world ever gave you a name. So stop shrinking to survive. Start rising to shine. You carry what the world cannot teach. You speak in a language only the Spirit can understand. And your gift is not too late. It's not too small. It's not too broken. It is enough. Because heaven gave it to you with purpose. And now is the time to use it. If your soul felt seen in this message, if something deep inside you whispered, "This is for me," then comment 444 below. That number is your public agreement with what heaven has already declared in private. And before you leave, make sure you subscribe to The Secret Path. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Because this isn't the end of your journey, it's just the beginning. Chosen one, you are being revealed now, because the world needs your light.